Howdy, 4-H Clovers. My name is Mr. Davis, and I am an after school instructor with 4-H Capital. If you are seeing outside from your window or while out in the front yard, you will see spring in full force. Spring is a season filled with life and animal activity. The bees are buzzing, flowers are in full bloom, and birds are singing and busy building their nest. Today's activity, How to Build a Bird Nest, explores that question. How do birds build nests? A few questions you should have in mind while you follow the steps in this 4-H at home activity are: how do birds build nests? What is a data observation sheet? And how do I, as a scientist, record my data and observations? In this Build a Bird's Nest experiment, our goal is to try and answer these questions.
Your first step in building a nest is to find your materials. You should look around your yard and or somewhere in your neighborhood that's safe to go. You're going to look for things like branches, weeds, bark, twigs, flowers, long grass, anything that you can find that a bird might use in building their nest.
After you gather your materials, one of the most important parts of conducting a scientific experiment is ensuring that you collect your data. Making sure you have a thorough idea of how you're going to plan out the experiment, and then a way to write and reflect your conclusions is an essential part of being a scientist. In my observation sheet, I've written what shape I'm trying to achieve, which is an oval. This is more of a rhombus shape, but I'm hoping to make it oval in the conclusion. I've labeled each piece and where I think it should go, and I've answered the questions of what shape I'm trying to achieve, what I think will make my build the strongest, and these are really just your thoughts and planning materials for starting your, before you start your nest. Build after you've researched the birds is starting your base. At this stage, I've tried to attach many of the sticks that are larger in a shape that I'm trying to get is sort of a square that I can then hopefully turn into an oval. One of the things when building your base is to use the very thin, long twigs, or some of the longer blades of grass, or even some of the weeds that might be bendy and yet strong enough for you to tie. As I'm doing at this stage, I've been able to tie a couple of the sticks together in order to start that structure that will resemble the base. This is a weaving technique. That's another technique you can use to create something similar to string that will help you attach the pieces of your base together. The sticks can be very difficult to attach, but as long as you're patient and keep trying and start over if you have to, you'll have a good base to start. That structure is what you build off of, so you really want to focus on making it sturdy. Once you have that, you can use the long twigs to create circular pieces that you can attach together, as I've done there, and build off your base using those. So you'll attach those circular twigs together and put them on top of the square or circle or whatever base you started with. Um, Once you've started doing the structure off of the base portion, you're gonna want to just keep reinforcing it by using twigs or some other um, attaching piece. As you can see there, I still have a large hole in the center of my nest, and that's something to keep in mind as you build, because you want a larger pocket in the center so that an egg or a bird would fit inside of it. The pocket serves as a sort of area that you're going to add softer things as well, so that would prevent the egg from cracking. Birds use their nest as their home, so they want it to be comfortable and structurally sound so that they're not falling out of it when they sleep at it.
and they also want their egg to have a nice comfy area to hide into. So you're gonna want to put it in the very center or as close to the center of your nest as possible. That's why I'm being very careful to make smaller circles and build a lot around the circle with those long sticks as you see there. Now that I have the pocket, I'm being very careful that the bottom is still not having any gaps and holes, and I want it to be flexible but not have any visible spots that are gaps. Um, at this stage, you've probably finished your nest. It kind of depends on how you feel about what you want it to look like.
After completing my nest build, I've done my results and reflections on my observation sheet. As you can see, I've drawn an image with labeling, making sure to label it of what my results were with my nest build. And I've reflected on some of the things that surprised me, what shape it came out, and whether or not I got the results I expected. I also put why I thought some of the things occurred during my nest build, such as using some large sticks that didn't quite help with the shape that I had intended, and why it came out the way it did. This is really a time for you to just reflect on what you learned while building your nest.
After you're done building your nest and recording your results, you can experiment with the nest to test its structure. Some examples of ways you can test this is you can see how much weight your nest will hold by filling it with small rocks or coins. You can put the nest over a sink or go outside and test to see if the nest is waterproof by pouring water inside. You could try putting an egg or egg shaped structure inside to see if the nest is big enough to fit one. What kind of test would you use to judge the nest structure?
Remember, when trying a test like this, make sure that you are doing it safely and preferably with adult supervision. And here we have it. The nest is doing a good job of holding up the egg. If you don't have an egg or a tree, you could always use something similarly sized and weighted. I have here salt, pepper, and just try and lift it up to see if it holds the weight. And if you can't see it from the bottom, you've created a good little nest. Now that we've concluded the building of our nest, and one of the most important steps, our data observation sheet, I hope you have those questions in mind that you had at the beginning still, which is, how do birds build nests? Hopefully you have a new appreciation for how difficult it is for a bird to build a nest, and how the process might work for them, what materials they gather, and how they create a structure that's safe for their egg. Do you have a better idea of how to conduct an observational experiment in the future? And most importantly for our scientists, just like you at home, did you observe and record your data? That's absolutely an essential step of any good scientific investigation. Today, what we've done by observing and replicating a bird's nest, we have also conducted a scientific experiment.